Hi, it's a lovely morning out here at the Congaree National Park. And a couple things I wanted to talk about today. One is some comments that I heard from a psychologist who is a fellow that I think quite well of, and I think he's helpful, to a lot of people. But as can happen when you rely on one discipline, that is seeing things through a single lens, then it can be somewhat limiting. So psychology is tremendously useful and insightful, but sometimes you need to put on another pair of glasses, so to speak, to give yourself another perspective. So a couple of the things that he mentioned was about human needs. And he was talking about, basically the premise of the video was about how addictions can be good because you can become addicted to learning, for example, skills. And so it can actually help you to have more skills. Well, I'm someone that knows that quite well because I basically got addicted to polishing my own set of skills, tools, a long time ago. So when it came to art and music, I just kept learning. And every time I mastered some technique, achieved some level, it was satisfying enough, got enough of a pleasure response from it where I just went on to the next thing. So the trouble with that is that how much is enough? So you go from one level to another, and you're climbing this mountain. And what happens? Where does it stop? Now, with art, I think that it actually, and this is kind of an aside, but I think that it actually does stop because you can achieve a point where it's basically mastery. You understand everything that you need to know about light, color, composition, construction of objects, all these things, where that's all you need to know. So what I did with art, and same thing with music. I didn't go quite as far with music, but anyway, not to go too far aside with those subjects. So the thing is like, okay, well, you can get on this endless path of accumulating skills, and where does it all lead? Well, the whole time you're doing this, basically, you're sequestered away, you're alone, you're not interacting with people socially because you're basically studying, you're cramming. So there's a price to pay for it, and there's a huge price that I've paid for it. So anyway, that I would just basically say that addictions are never a good thing, because as soon as you step into that pattern, then reality itself basically disappears, and that's what you're focused on. So even if you learn skills, and well, what are you going to do with them? Did you go off to live on a desert island to learn skills so that you could come back and teach a class or something? Perhaps, but anyway, enough of that. The next subject, he was talking about status, and he said that status is a sort of requirement for human happiness. It's something that we all require, status. And I've mentioned Australian Aborigines before as being the happiest, healthiest societies that have ever been studied by anthropologists. And here again, anthropology, sociology, these are sciences social sciences that are related to psychology, and they're very necessary. But if you're only in psychology, then you're not going to, there's a lot of deeper connections that you may completely miss. So the thing about status is that in Aboriginal society, there was no such thing as status, and everything was designed against creating status. Because what status basically is it places you in a hierarchy, basically higher than someone else. So status could be anything, it could be any kind of position that we have in society, a mayor, a policeman, well, you might consider a teacher to be one, but we don't really honor teachers very much. We don't reward them. At least at the moment, we don't. So, anyway, status basically puts you above someone else. That's the only definition, really, because status is your place in society on a scale, up, down. You can only be up if it's in contrast to someone who's down. So status may be something that people yearn for or work towards, and it could be, in politics, it could be in rock and roll, it could be in art, it could be in science, it could be in all sorts of things. But it has to do with being seen as superior to other people, which is in itself unhealthy. So I place that in this conversation with addiction, that they're basically both unhealthy. And you could say, well, both have positive outlooks, or whatever. And it's like, well, you can make something positive out of anything, You could take a heroin addict and say, well, he's helping the what do you call it? Come on, Pooch. The industry that makes the needles, or something, or he's, helping something in some way. There's some positive aspect to it. It's like, not really. Okay, so hypodermics, yes, that's it. So anyway, status, skills, addiction to skills. That's what first thing I want to talk about. Next thing, this idea, these things we have going on with political divides in the society right now, and it's so rampant, it's so ridiculous. As soon as someone senses that you're not in their party or something, they tense up and they flip out, and everything becomes adversarial conflict. But you may have seen charts that show a political spectrum. It'll have two axes, left, right, up, down. I think down is libertarian, up is authoritarian, and right and left is conservative and liberal. Well, anyway, when people root themselves in one of these areas and say, this is me, this is absolutely me to the core, and it's me because I'm not them, well, it becomes opposition by definition, as you could call it. So I'm not quite sure who I am, but I know I'm not them. So people can plant themselves in these sort of flower pots and never actually take proactive action other than, voting, party line. Never actually go out in the world and come up with creative solutions for problems, things like that. But they are comfortable, stuck in this, with this label that they've applied to themselves. And what I would say is that all these so-called political leanings, they all claim to be the best solution to a problem. So in a sense, they're like tools. Well, the thing is that for different problems, you need different tools. So you could look at these four political leanings as tools. One's a screwdriver, one's a wrench or pair of pliers, one's a hammer, and one's a saw. So if you have a certain problem, then you need a certain tool. And if you try to use the wrong tool, you're never going to get anywhere. So, but what you can do is you can stand there with your tool, the screwdriver, and say, I have the best tool, while the problem just goes on and on. So I think that these perspectives that people have politically, liberals are better at dealing with social issues. Conservatives may be better at dealing with international or budgetary economic issues, things like that, or they may not. The thing is that just like a person can be of a certain type, a psychological type, like I discussed the Enneagram tests a while back. You can be a certain type, and the thing is that you can go one of two directions with that. You can go in a positive direction with it, or a negative direction with it. And anyway, I guess that's about it. Basically, that's the trouble with politics, is everybody thinks that they have the best tool, when it's like, no, everyone's tool has its merits. But you need to see, you need to be able to function. Oh, look. See him? Oh, there he is. You need to have as many tools in your toolkit as possible and be able to use them all. So, is there any term for someone who encompasses the entire political spectrum? Maybe there should be. Omni something. Because right now what we have is people using these labels to define themselves, as I said, and then and then taking it in different directions. So you can take, nationalism in a good direction, sort of, maybe, or you can take it in a very bad direction. Same thing with liberalism, same thing with libertarianism or anything else. So basically I'll leave it there. I hope this is food for thought for you, and all these things are sort of interrelated, so if I discuss people's political leanings, I can reference it in psychology, history, sociology, anthropology, and so on. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'll leave it there. Bye.